Good morning and afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. Welcome to our presentation today, the Next Gen Workforce, the ROI of Managed Services, featuring a telecommunications case study. My name is Mike Otranto and I'm a strategic account specialist at Microsoft. I'm also joined on today's call with Heather Champu, today's presenter, who leads in the business development capacity for Microsoft. Before we get started, we have a few quick logistics to go over with you. First off, due to the large audience, we will not be able to open up the line today. However, please feel free to leverage the chat module within your GoToWebinar panel to ask your questions. We will be monitoring the chat and question panel throughout today's presentation. You can also feel free to email me directly and I will be happy to answer your questions as well. I'll be including my contact information at the end of the webinar. That being said, all lines will be muted throughout the presentation. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away during the webinar, no need to worry. We will be distributing the recording of today's presentation to all registrants following the webinar. Before we get started on managed services, a brief introduction to Microsoft. Microsoft is a joint venture with Microsoft that was founded in 2002. We provide business applications built on the Microsoft platform. Our services include consulting, education and training, staffing, offshore development, and business process outsourcing. And of course, our focus today, managed services. We are proud to be a triple certified Microsoft partner. Less than 1% of MS partners have that designation. We are a true one-stop shop for enterprises, work productivity transformation, and have a wealth of experience helping organizations maximize their efficiency and technological advantage through people, process, and technology. Microsoft is a global company with over 6,500 employees worldwide. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Heather.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For today's agenda, we're going to start off by taking a look at some of the challenges that we're seeing in today's work environments, as well as with the workforce specifically. Many of you are familiar with the concept of staffing, but what exactly does managed services mean? We'll cover that definition as well as the key variances between these two concepts. If your organization were to move to a managed service model, what benefits would you experience and what ROI or return on your investment can you expect to see? We'll review these benefits and returns in detail as well. Microsoft has implemented many managed service models for a variety of clients. However, today we're going to drill into one specifically, one of the largest communication providers on the market. We'll review their story and how managed services has positively impacted their business. And then finally, we'll cover some of the managed service offerings available, as well as some of the business applications we support within these models. So before we dive into managed services and its definition, let's take a quick look at some of the common workplace challenges that we're seeing in today's work environments. Over the last few years, there have been a significant amount of introduction to new and disruptive technologies, which in turn introduces a whole new set of challenges for organizations. The increased burden of maintaining current technology and networks with the same consistent reliability and performance that we're used to, while keeping up with the latest and greatest innovations that are required for businesses to stay ahead of their competition, is proving to be an overwhelming task for many. So now you've got two streams of work. You've got maintenance, or maintaining the status quo, and you've got introducing innovation and strategic technology required for revenue growth. You then throw in the impact of today's economy where resources and costs are spread thin, and doing more with less is a common trend that is growing across enterprises everywhere. It's a challenge every enterprise faces, and you've heard it over time and time again, do more work with less resources. And that's just the business aspect of it. If we take a look at the changes in our workforce specifically, we're seeing a different set of challenges. In Gallup's recent State of the American Workplace report, they reported that 51% of the US workforce is not engaged. Gallup, of course, measures engagement based on a 12-point survey that focuses on an employee's performance development needs. When those needs are met, we see that employees become emotionally and psychologically attached to their work and their workplace. As a result, their individual performance soars, and they propel their team and organization to improved crucial outcomes such as higher levels of productivity and even safety and quality. Within that 12-point system, Technology, developmental growth, role importance and recognition are all key elements impacting an employee's engagement. Disengaged employees cost organizations between $450 and $550 billion annually. That's significant. In addition, only 2.53 hours per day of an employee's 8-hour day are actually productive. It's 2.53 hours. Why do you think that is? Well, for fun, let's take a quick peek at some of the most common unproductive activities and see if any of them sound familiar to you and what you're seeing in your workplace. First one, reading news websites. Some of us even have news websites as our landing page in Google, so that may sound familiar. Checking social media, 44 minutes. Discussing non-work related things with coworkers, 40 minutes. Searching for new jobs, that's a little scary, right? 26 minutes. Taking smoke breaks, 23 minutes. Making calls to partners or friends. Making hot drinks. Texting or instant messaging, I would have to believe that this one, this seems very low to me, 14 minutes. I think it would be much higher. Eating snacks, 8 minutes, and making food in the office, 7 minutes. So once again, we're seeing the workforce is changing. Here's a little history lesson for you on the 8-hour workday. In the late 18th century, 10 to 16-hour workdays were normal because factories needed to be run 24/7, right? They never closed. Over time, it became apparent to leaders that long days were greatly impacting the workforce, and in 1817, a man named Robert Owen began to advocate for shorter workdays. He believed the workday should be divided up into thirds, so he coined the phrase 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, and 8 hours rest. Unfortunately, the campaigning didn't have a lot of impact. However, there were a series of factory acts that did improve working conditions, especially for women and children, granting them things like a 10-hour workday. In 1869, President Ulysses S. Grant issued a proclamation that guaranteed an hour workday without a decrease in pay, but it only applied to government workers. The 8-hour workday cause was once again revisited in Britain in 1884 by a man named Thomas Mann, who was part of the Social Democratic Federation. He formed an 8-hour league with the sole purpose to get the 8-hour workday established. He managed to actually convince the Trades Union Congress, which represents the majority of unions in Britain, to establish the 8-hour workday as one of their primary goals. It wasn't until 1926 that the Ford Motor Company had an astonishing discovery. What if we cut the workday in half while at the same time doubled salaries? So they're paying the same, but they're working half as much time. Well, they did, and the results were astonishing. Increased productivity. They were one of the first companies in America to adopt a 5-day, 40-hour work week for workers. It's been proven time and time again that employees with overwhelming workloads due to organizations having more work than they actually have employees to do become disgruntled. Disgruntled employees result in employee turnover. The average turnover rate in the US is 16.7%, and it's still growing. The factors that contribute to this number include bad management, low pay. In many cases, our competition could be paying more than we are. Feeling undervalued due to low recognition, or maybe they feel like they have low value work. Maybe the job is too stressful. In many cases, it's due to being understaffed and our workers have to pick up the workload and the slack. And stagnation. Talented employees won't be complacent. They'll want to climb the ropes, and if you keep them in one place too long, they will get bored. These employees are the ones you actually want to keep around because eventually they'll probably become your leaders. Mercer reports that 34% of employees say they plan to leave their current role in the next 12 months. That's another scary statistic. Removing stagnation would impact this statistic, I would have to believe. In addition to these turnover contributors, HR Drive reports that it can cost up to 33% of an employee's salary to replace him or her. Bottom line, employee turnover is costly. And lastly, I love this comic strip, another challenge. company communication and visibility. Many workers do not understand company goals, strategies, even the mission or vision of the company. You've heard the saying, we fear what we don't understand. As employers, we have to start communicating better. Shared understanding leads to teams working towards common goals. Being on the same page, well, that can never be a bad thing. All of the challenges we just reviewed play a critical role in the evolution of our workforce. Legacy workforce models are giving way to on-demand and sub-provider models. Accenture predicts that 43% of the US workforce will be contingent by 2020. Changes are being driven by corporations as well as individuals that see significant advantages to this type of engagement model. Organizations can stay lean and nimble to innovate while employees are able to gain experience and create a work schedule that fits in their lifestyle. Organizations want the ability to increase business agility and scale at will and not have the added pressure of facing possible layoffs that could lower employee morale should the workload vary through seasons or even based on industry trends. They also want to have the right skill sets without the investments associated with recruiting, training, management of those resources internally. So what exactly is managed services? Managed services is the practice of outsourcing management responsibilities on a proactive basis and a strategic method intended to improve operations and cut expenses. The managed service model is attractive to organizations because it involves non-traditional pricing models that is based on service levels, results, and quality-based deliverables versus the typical time and material that we're used to seeing. It also increases agility and allows an organization to tap into specialized skills that they might not otherwise have access to. Often, organizations leverage MSP resources for operational type work, freeing up their employees with critical skill sets to work on higher priority assignments requiring their expertise. You're probably already familiar with a staff aug model, but how exactly does managed services differ from that traditional model? The managed services or outsourcing model differs from staff aug in a number of ways. In a managed service model, the MSP or managed service provider is responsible for all management of the services rendered versus a staff aug model where the client assumes responsibility for managing the execution of the services provided. In a managed service model, the MSP agrees to service level commitments that must be met in order to get paid. In a staff aug model, no such commitments are made in regards to deliverables. Also, you've got scope and term, which are also committed, where there may be little commitment in the traditional staff aug model. Managed services also gives organizations a clear picture of predictable outcomes. Pricing is tied to service levels and volumes versus a staff augmentation model based on number of hours worked and availability. In a managed service model, the MSP is responsible for managing the delivery models, tools, and processes leveraged within the engagement, whereas on the staff aug side, the client still manages these components internally. Other aspects that impact the managed service agreement may also be handled over the MSP to manage, such as maybe even employees, technology, other assets and contracts. In a traditional model, no change to the operational model is typically necessary. In a managed service model, you can expect optimized processes to enhance productivity. MSPs can share best-in-class processes they have learned from past engagements and across all clients, which is difficult when the client manages the execution themselves. The MSP also assumes all risks that are associated to delivery, transition, and operations. And when a managed service offering ends, all knowledge must be transferred and fully documented. Traditional staffing definitely has its benefits, but in many cases, organizations are looking for the predictability and expertise that managed services provides. MSPs are always the experts in the managed services they deliver. So why would an organization want to move to managed services? In addition to addressing some of the many challenges we discussed earlier, managed services has many benefits. Overall, managed services increases agility. Organizations can maintain a lean workforce and focus on core business functions and the strategic elements of their business, such as innovation, versus the day-to-day operational aspects of execution. Their greatest asset, which are their employees, can be leveraged for their in-depth knowledge and talent to build next-generation products and services that will grow the company versus having them focus on turnkey, repeatable tasks that underutilize their skill set and expertise. It also allows businesses to scale at will, handling peaks and valleys of work volume without increasing your workforce and incurring additional costs that then must be maintained when workload subsides. Businesses can pay as they go and use only what they need, allowing for maximum flexibility in the corporation's workforce. For example, tax season is here, and many businesses that have tax-related products will see a huge spike in order volume during this time. Take a look at Intuit, makers of TurboTax. During tax season, it wouldn't be beneficial to the company to go out and hire full-time employees to support their 1-month tax peak just to let them go when the season is over. That would not only impact morale, but would also waste unnecessary spend on overhead costs such as interviewing, training, and onboarding. Additionally, often organizations require specialized skill sets for specific projects or tasks. In many cases, the needs may be short-term. Similar to hiring an electrician when you need lighting installed, these businesses may choose to leverage an MSP that has expertise in one specific area. There's no need to be an expert in all things. Businesses want to focus on what they're good at and the skills they need to support the bulk of their business and leave the specialty needs to outside experts. This in turn guarantees faster implementation, and in many cases, high-quality MSP providers have resources ready to start immediately. Handling the same project in-house might take weeks or even months to hire the right people, train them, and provide the support they need. In the area of cost reduction, managed services has a lot of additional benefits. Many of the cost savings benefits are realized because organizations don't have to deal with the hiring and onboarding of new employees. For example, recruiting. Recruiting is a very expensive when you consider the time it takes to find the right resource, let alone the cost of placing ads, recruiting events, etc. Other employee-related expenses that can be quite costly include onboarding, training, equipment, and office space. An even larger portion of costs are associated to employee insurance, medical benefits, taxes, and even retirement programs. Imagine if these costs were no longer necessary. Then you have to take into account that all new resources who are hired then need to be managed by someone. This is another area where cost savings can have a big impact. Remember, with managed services, you take the management responsibilities off of the client's plate, and it becomes the burden of the MSP provider. In addition to agility and cost savings, organizations can also expect to experience a big hike in productivity by leveraging managed services. You can eliminate the normal distractions you typically see in the workplace. Remember the statistic we reviewed earlier regarding the actual time an employee is productive in an 8-hour day? 2.53 hours. Also, because the pay model or pricing structure is handled based on completed tasks per the SLA, managed service workers tend to be incentivized to meet their SLA thresholds, making them more focused and more productive than typical FTE workers. Utilizing experts will also help deliver products and services faster and more accurately, in addition to more volume at a faster pace for overall increased productivity and profitability. Because organizations are leveraging outsourced workers and they are only paying for what they need, the workload will be more distributed, which makes employees less overworked and therefore increases employee engagement. This also improves work-life balance. The days of overburdening our employees to do more with less are declining. Businesses are outsourcing work to ensure their employees aren't overallocated on work that is insignificant in the big picture and is not aligned to their skill set. There are so many benefits to managed services. By finding the right vendor, you can ensure that you receive the full return on your managed service investment. For example, Find a vendor that believes in a partnership mentality, not a vendor relationship. Work in a shared risk model where the vendor doesn't win until you do. Ensure the job is done right and never pay for rework again. Also, along with the digital transformation comes new technology and the need to keep up with the competition. Find a vendor that is tool agnostic and can work within your tool sets, even helping you train your teams on new technology and best practices. So as you can see, there are many reasons why leveraging managed services for your business may be a good idea. At Wickersoft, one of our managed services focus areas is in the telecommunications industry. Let's take a deeper look at how we were able to help one of the largest communication providers save costs, increase productivity, and achieve greater agility through our offerings. Back on December 2nd, 2013, Wickersoft partnered with one of the largest telecommunications providers to assist in the development, then implementation of a quality assurance service delivery process for 4,400 circuits per month. The objective of this new process was to lower a 50% error ratio, increase productivity, and improve time to market, as well as achieve a faster realization of revenue. We worked with the engineering management team to develop a process beginning at the receipt of a commercial order in engineering through the handoff to circuit design, then complete the process with a network compliance function to verify systems data against the network. These processes addressed ordering issues pertaining to things like cell backhaul, point-to-point, mesh, point-to-multipoint, Ethernet access, DIA, PRI, IP, and video circuit products. The team evaluated the impacts of required information for SILI codes and naming conventions, service addresses, bandwidth requirements, equipment, cable, IP addresses, paths, sites, ASRs, fiber design, sales, construction, etc. Each of these data elements impacts the ability for an order to flow smoothly throughout the service delivery engine to meet the expected customer due date. A variety of systems and databases were reviewed for the ability to accept and retrieve data elements as well as track improved quality. We worked with Salesforce, Granite, Clones, Putty, as well as additional homegrown tools. The work required us to establish 3 groups: the circuit identification team, the quality assurance team, and the network compliance team. Standard processes were created for all engineers on each team. These processes were thoroughly documented for future continuity. Our consultants participated in Clone certification, Granite system, Salesforce, network, as well as internal processes and procedures training. The team was fully operational and able to process the order demand within 8 weeks following the training. A 90% improvement in accuracy was realized by the end of a 10-week period, and 24 and 48-hour SLAs were met 99.5% of the time. As the order volume grew, we expanded along with the growth. We began the engagement with 12 engineers and 1 project operations manager, and expanded to 28 engineers and 2 project operation managers, who now currently process approximately 9,200 circuits per month. That's more than double the original workload. The process has been re-engineered as we've learned more efficient ways to handle orders. Productivity, service commitments to customers, and time to market have all improved. The validation process to compare network inventory system records against actual connections in the field was implemented in January of 2014. The team compares the network inventory data for a circuit against actual network connection, then corrects network inventory records if required, and sets indicators that notify the NOC or network operations centers that the circuit is ready for monitoring. This new process improved record accuracy, reduced rework of circuit designs, and established continuity between what is in the field and what's in the network inventory system. Again, SLAs were met 99.5% of the time. Wickersoft was originally selected because of our ability to provide engineering, industry-leading consultants, and in-depth knowledge of the circuit design and provisioning arena. As an industry partner, we assisted in the development and streamlined the client's deep QA processes. We then implemented the day-to-day verification of data from silly code generation through construction, fiber design requirements, ASR validation, and database continuity. Our team is an extension of the client's commercial engineering team and continues to work hand in hand with management to re-engineer the processes. By performing over expectations, we've been awarded additional managed service operations and opportunities in core network engineering and provisioning and acceptance. These teams were ramped up in a similar fashion, and all managed service initiatives have been extended through 2018. As with many of our clients, we worked hand in hand with our client to create new processes and procedures, making it a shared risk partnership, removing productivity blockers, optimizing the order process, and ensuring that no work was paid for until it was done to the highest quality aligned with the set SLAs. We are highly focused on innovation and dedicated to strategic alignment, continuously working towards common goals. We also leveraged a crawl, walk, run mentality that allows us to progress at the right speed to minimize introducing risk along the way. The results were a massive increase in order fulfillment and 100% increase in correctly completed orders. Focusing in on two specific components that greatly increase ROI of managed services, first we have the unique benefit of transforming capital expense or CapEx into operational expense or OpEx, essentially renting the service versus owning it with no upfront investments. The business gets valuable tax deductions and a more predictable and consistent expense model. It also allows organizations to hire expertise at a lower cost model that allows you to scale as needed. The money saved on recruiting, onboarding and offboarding, training, management and taxes, business insurance, full benefits, 401k, office space, etc., adds up quickly and has a significant impact on your bottom line. Making the decision to move to a managed service model is half the battle. But once you have executive buy-in and have proven the value of such an offering, there are 4 easy steps in moving. First, you have to define the 3 S's: scope, SLA, and sourcing strategy. Confirm your organization's outsourcing objectives. For example, is it for efficiency, enhancement, or maybe even for transformation? Then you'll want to define the scope of service appropriate for your managed services needs and assess your internal vendor management competencies. For example, do you have a VMS solution? Are there requirements for leveraging new vendors? Defining key SLAs and the mechanism to capture and track them is critical for your success. And finally, evaluate potential service providers in the market and determine which ones meet your requirements and have strengths and the services you're looking for. Now it's time to source vendors. Build a short list of vendors based on your organization's key objectives. Circulate requests for information, invite vendors to provide their capability metrics and maybe even their overview presentations. Once you select a vendor, you're now ready to negotiate and sign the contract. During the onboarding or transition period, create a transition roadmap that includes transition requirements, vendor transition methodology, and a transition schedule. Implement a training schedule and train your MSE employees on company-specific processes. Remember, they'll be an extension of your team. Set up weekly meetings between your MSE provider and company management to discuss any processes, questions, or issues that arise throughout the engagement. Remove barriers and ensure performance KPIs are shared and reviewed on an ongoing basis. Implement and track SLAs and ensure the governance is clearly defined and implemented. A governance framework is recommended as communication, change management, and stakeholder collaboration will be key elements to a successful partnership. Wickersoft has a unique perspective when it comes to our managed service offerings. We seek to understand at the executive level where your business is going and what you hope to accomplish. We want to understand your barriers so we can build the right solution to remove them and make your teams more productive with the right technology to get the job done right. Once we understand your strategy, it takes a lot of people, tools, and processes to make it happen. The plan must be architected, engineered, and implemented. To implement it takes a lot of experts with specialized skill sets to execute in the most effective and productive way. I like to use the analogy of medicine. Your business may be full of general practitioners ready to help with all initiatives at hand, but as you navigate through all the work, you'll come across a broken bone or a damaged heart. You wouldn't want your dermatologist to operate on your broken arm or your psychiatrist to perform heart surgery, right? It's very much the same with technology and other areas of expertise. You can't be everything to everyone, and you can't have a business full of specialists. In fact, you would never think to try to fix a broken bone yourself, right? The risk associated to doing so would be extremely high. What if you caused irreversible damage? In addition, would it make sense to go out and buy all the equipment needed to repair one broken bone? Would it be worth the added expense? The fact is, it wouldn't. Now, if you could hire a vendor who has built a massive network of specialty doctors and has hundreds of customers that share the costs, that you can realize the benefits of this network as if you owned it, without having the overhead costs and risk, would you sign up for it? Most possibly. That's exactly what we've done. We've built world-class offerings for telecom, IT, PMO, and network operations managed services that includes best practices, proven methodologies, and workflows, and a massive network of the best experts in each field. This didn't come quickly or at little cost to our business, but we have the luxury of taking all the costs and dividing it up amongst our many customers so that we can bring these offerings to you at a very reasonable price, much less than hiring them yourself. In addition, you lower the risk of managing work you aren't an expert in, and you remove all the time it would take for trial and error, because quite simply, we've been doing it for many years, and we have the process down, saving you a ton of time and exploration that in many cases leads to rework. Now your people can be more productive, less constrained, and you can focus on the real work that is required to grow your business. Lastly, in addition to our services, Wickersoft is also a leading provider of productivity solutions and services built on the Microsoft platform. With that, that concludes our presentation today, the ROI of Managed Services. We hope that you've enjoyed today's webcast. If you have any questions or would like to speak to an expert regarding our managed service offerings, please refer to the contacts on your screen. In addition, we're offering a special managed service assessment designed to understand your business strategy, your service needs, and design a roadmap to implement a managed service program within your organizations. If you're interested in this offer, please reach out to Vincent Clements. His contact information is listed above. Thank you for joining today, and have a great day.